good? Matt Clark here at the new Matt Clark. How are each and every one of you doing on this amazing Monday? I'm doing great. My girl's doing great. My family's doing great. I hope each and every one of you are doing great, even though times just aren't that great. If you could please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell notification button so you get all my videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that would be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of all of my videos. So, I felt like I was lacking in talking about female prisons, giving them any notoriety or talking about the system for females really at all. So, I started looking into Grand Valley Female Penitentiary in Kitchener. Now, honestly, I was expecting to read a lot of stories about fights and violence or like drug contraband and stuff like that, which is what you typically see when you read about male prisons. But I didn't see any of that. All I saw was sexual assault claims and some other things that I'm going to talk about in this video, which honestly kind of blew my mind. So, the female population of prisoners in Ontario and across Canada is very small. Typically, most women aren't out doing the kinds of crimes where the court are going to sentence them to federal time. So unless they're murdering somebody, they're doing bank robberies or major crime, they're typically probably not going to be sentenced to the pen. Now, that's not saying there are no female convicts and there are no people on the hamster wheel in the female system, because that's not true either. That is the case. There are obviously female criminals, just much less, on a much smaller scale. And Grand Valley Federal Institution in Kitchener is the only female penitentiary in this province. Now, it used to be K for W, which was Kingston Pen for women. That pen was open for like the longest time. I think at one point was the only female penitentiary in Canada. There was actually a riot there in 1994 where they kidnapped some guards and stuff, and there was some major blowback because literally male guards were the ones doing the strip search and cut their uniforms off of them and ripped them off and just basically degraded and humiliated them. And there were big problems with that prison, so they opened Grand Valley. Now, Grand Valley has a capacity of 171 people, and it opened in 1997. Now, Grand Valley Institution is all levels. So it's minimum, medium, and maximum. And the maximum ranges only have 5 cells. They're like small little pods because really there's not many people in them. But there are some female criminals that you guys have probably heard about. Terry Ann McClintock was there. Jennifer Pan is there. And Elizabeth Wetlaufer are there. So that's, that shows you that really there's not that many. There's probably 30 maximum offenders in that prison. I would assume it's probably not even that much that are on that level. Now, I was obviously expecting to read about fighting and stuff like that, but that's not what I read about. And what I read about was honestly quite disturbing. I felt like I had to do this video to at least kind of shine a light on it, because I feel like I've never even heard of this. I've never heard of any of these situations. They're never talked about in the media. And we know that Grand Valley Institution has some bad stuff behind their name at points. That Ashley Smith situation, where she was just kept in seg indefinitely with major mental health problems. She was literally in jail for throwing rocks at somebody. And literally her behavior, because of her mental health, escalated, and it eventually took her to Grand Valley Federal Institution where she was in seg, and she hung herself. Now, there's been lots of suicides from what I hear in the female prisons across this country, and a few there at Grand Valley Institution. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because of the time. I don't know if it's because of the treatment. I'm not going to speculate. But if anybody has any idea, you could let me know. But what I did read was that recently there was a male officer that was charged for sexually assaulting a female. I read about stories of drug exchanges for sex, and I just think it's crazy. I think that as men, we take pride in protecting the females in our lives. And I would be horrified knowing if any female in my family who just happened to break the law was in a situation where maybe they were being used with their addiction, coerced through addiction, or just abused in a way that they shouldn't be abused, sexually harassed. And typically you wouldn't even expect males to really be patrolling the ranges or doing searches or anything like that. But from what I read, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be like sometimes that happens. Like I said, in the riot at the K4W, they literally cut the uniforms off of the women while they were strip searching them. It was like a CERT team that stopped the riot, and they were all males. Like, that horrifies me, thinking, if my sister just happened to break the law because of addiction, maybe got involved with some dude who got her involved in a drug thing, or in a robbery, or worst case scenario, even a murder, and this is the stuff that she has to deal with as a woman, you wouldn't expect prison to be the same as it is for men. Obviously, the prison has to be designed different. There's hygiene issues that men really typically don't care about. They don't care how hygienic the men are for the most part. And they just can't do that to women, especially in a country like Canada. So you wouldn't expect to read the things that I read. And honestly, the last story that just made me angry was transsexual males. Born males that turned or transitioned to female well in the system. So these are dudes that are charged with murder. These are dudes that are charged with serial sexual assault. These are child rapists that have decided because they can't hack it in a man's prison, whether they're gay or not, transsexual or not, they need to go interject themselves in a female prison. Now, Justin Trudeau amended Bill C-16, adding gender expression and identity. Now, I don't have a problem with somebody being transgender. If you're in the community, you're transgender, you want to do what you want to do in your free time, you even want me to call you by a female pronoun, I have no problem doing that. If I know you, have respect for you. It is what it is. Your choices are your choices. But do I think it's fair for a woman who happens to be in prison to be subjected to people that have conditions on their cases that say they can't be around women and children, yet simply because they transition, and our government wants to look super woke across the world, because let's be real, that's what it is. Who wants to look the most woke? And I think the fact that they overlook these women's safety simply because they're criminal women to look woke on the world stage, regardless of the dangers and the consequences that could come from those decisions. And there's all kinds of stories, people saying they're being bullied, they're being intimidated. There was a story that I read of this transgendered female, I guess was a male that transitioned to female, that was in Fembrook when I was there. They called him Mangela. This dude, or woman, was 6'5" and like 250 pounds, walking the track, full female garb. Confident, seemed that way anyways. But the stories were, this dude was a snitch. This dude, anytime anybody said anything, ran to the staff, snitch, snitch, snitch. And that was their way of getting out of that. Because I read a story, now this person is a bully and intimidating people in the female penitentiary because they got a sex change while inside, paid by taxpayers. You can't get a root canal, something that's important to save your tooth if you're doing time, but you can get a sex change. I think the system has some backwards policies, and like I said, it's because our government wants to look woke on the world stage. And it's sad that these women have to deal with the consequences of those actions, and those people don't see any of it. They don't see any of it. They don't even care how real of a threat it is. All they care about is looking woke. And at the end of the day, remember, our government's media, our media is controlled by the government. It is. CBC is government-controlled media. So that's why you never see prison stories. You never hear about prison murders. You never hear about anything from CSC unless it's like a strike or something where the feds are asking for more money. Then they'll pump those stories. But you never hear about any of the bad stuff that goes on. And that's because they don't want to look like they're doing anything wrong to anybody. Like our country is the most humanitarian country in the world. That's the image they want to lay out there. So they cover a bunch of crap up. But this is crazy. You're putting serial sex offenders and child rapists in with female offenders simply because they got a sex change. Suddenly, they're not dangerous anymore. Suddenly, they can't assault somebody. Somebody needs to get this guy out of there. Like, for real. Let's get True Dope out of there. Obviously, I share my stories with you guys so you guys don't have to go through these things yourselves. If I could snap my finger, nobody's ever addicted to drugs again. Nobody ever has to go to prison again. That's what I do, but that's not a reality, especially in 2021. The world is crazy right now. We know that, and sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and sometimes that can land you in prison. Hopefully my videos can inform you guys enough that you can make some good decisions when you go in and not put yourself in a bad position. If you could please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell notification button so you get all my videos when they're new. If you could share with somebody on social media, help spread the message, help spread the word, that'd be amazing. And there's a PayPal option if you'd like to donate, help support the channel. The link is in the description of all my videos. So, like I said, obviously, criminals are in prison. And there is a punishment for the crime that they're in prison for. But while they're in prison, they should not be subjected to some of the things that I read about, or the people that they're being subjected to have to live with. And that is just facts. It's not even a male-female thing. You take a vulnerable human, put them up against a not-so-vulnerable human with a very dangerous background, no matter how gangster this vulnerable person is. I don't get it. I don't see the purpose in it. At the end of the day, I have no problem with somebody being transgender when they're in the community, in their own life, or even in the prison system. If they do it in the male system, I've seen transgenders that do time perfectly fine. Sure, they get harassed a little bit, but really? We're going to put them in the female prisons? I think we need to be more responsible as a whole nation. Love each and every one of you. The new Matt Clark.